The Aldis podcast is brought to you by Aldis International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Aldis Podcast ServiceNow series. Our guest today is Dave Kinlough. Dave is the Senior Director of Enterprise Business Solutions at Samsung SDS. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, JP.
So Dave, let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all our guests. Could you give us an overview of your journey in technology, from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as one of the Senior Directors of Enterprise Business Solutions for Samsung SDS?
So I started selling computers when I was 14 at a retail store here in Canada. And through that, I made a lot of connections. And one of those connections happened to be somebody who got hired at Digital Equipment Corporation shortly thereafter. So I had just graduated high school and I was asked if I wanted to work for Digital. At that point in time, this is going way back. So Digital was the second largest computer company in the world. It was them and IBM that were really in competition with each other at that time. So yeah, I said yes, of course, and I started working for Digital. So I worked for Digital for a number of years, but then Digital got bought by Compaq and Compaq got bought by HP. And I started seeing there was a glass ceiling. So I decided, I was still quite young, that I'd go back to school. So I went back to school and then came back out and decided to go the startup route. So I had a number of startups in the early 2000s, from trying to get lottery to be sold online to manage hosting, which was a precursor to the cloud. Had my ups and downs there. And then eventually found my way into mobility. So I was always really interested in mobility. And then I ended up working for Bell Mobility up here in Canada as a data solutions consultant. So I started to see not only that those were the heyday of BlackBerry. So I started to see that there was a lot more that we could do with these devices very, very early. And that kind of got me hooked. So from Bell, I ended up working for two ruggedized handheld manufacturers. So ruggedized hardware, so very focused in supply chain and mission critical mobile applications. So really got into things like SAP and, started to see, more of the real back end IT platforms. From those ruggedized providers, I ended up going back in the startup world and ended up starting a company that eventually got sold to a company called Tango. Tango was the world's largest telecom expense management provider. As the founders of the company, we stayed on after our earnout was done. And I got a masterclass in how enterprise mobility is run globally. And from there, I came over to Samsung to try and augment Samsung SDS's capabilities around managed mobility services and basically lifecycle management in general. And then through those number of years at Samsung, I was involved in enough deals to see that there was a white space in the environment where there was no tool that was just focused on lifecycle management. Most of those tools were telecom expense management systems or something else that where the lifecycle side of mobile was really an afterthought. And we saw that there was, a good opportunity to build something that just focused on hyper automation and lifecycle management. We had been involved with ServiceNow for quite some time and saw that there was a white space, especially inside of ServiceNow for this, where at that point in time, ServiceNow didn't even have mobile as an asset class. So we partnered with ServiceNow. We built this product called Zero Touch Mobility, and now we've brought it to market and it's seeing a lot of success. So, that was a long way of saying that I went from selling computers in a mall to working for one of the biggest electronics companies in the world. And there's not a whole lot of strategy that was involved in it. It was a lot of luck and perseverance.
Thank you for sharing, Dave. And whether it was strategy or combination of luck and perseverance. It's obviously paid off. You find yourself now in a very exciting role working with Samsung SDS. Just for the benefit of our audience, like Samsung is one of the most well-known tech brands globally, but there are so many interesting subdivisions and none more so than SDS. I think just to set the stage and help add some color to what we'll talk about a bit down the line. Can you explain the SDS group, what that means, what you guys are responsible for, and how that applies then to enterprise automation and where ServiceNow fits into all of this?
Yeah, you're right. Samsung is just a behemoth. And there's so many sub companies that are part of the Samsung group that they get lost because of the Samsung name in general and the brand. So Samsung SDS was actually the IT department for Samsung. And in the mid 80s, we were spun off into our own company. I believe that the philosophy was, let's try to see if we can monetize what we're doing for IT internally and turn our IT company from a cost center into a profit center. So we were spun off into our own entity and then slowly grew an external business. So we're still the IT department for Samsung. So we do all network infrastructure and help desk and every mobile phone, every piece of IT and every piece of software that's inside of the Samsung group is provided more than likely by SDS, along with all of the services and software capabilities and all of that. We still manage that across the world. But we're also now very much focused on external customers. So large enterprise, government, military, and institutional customers. So SDS is about 14 billion in revenues, offices in 43 countries. We're a Forbes G2K listed public company just by ourselves. We're in the Gartner Magic Quadrant about 10 times. So we really are one of the largest IT organizations in the world that no one's ever heard of. We're trying to change that.
I remember when you broke it down for me like that, and I was really taken aback. So I think it really helps set the stage because it's huge in and of itself. But look, we wanted to get you on today. You're fresh off the back of speaking at Knowledge 2023. And prior to Knowledge, you were giving me some insight into some of the exciting investments being made in automations at Samsung SDS and how you're going to leverage ServiceNow to get you there. So could you share some of that detail when you look at the work that your team is doing now? What's involved? How many people are involved? And what sort of impact is it going to have for Samsung employees and also some of the external customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ServiceNow has become a big part of our strategy moving forward. So there's two sides to Samsung SDS. There's the internal business. So there's an entire group that handles just delivering services and products to the Samsung group customers. And then there's external, which I'm part of, which tries to build new solutions and complete solutions and get those to enterprise customers or governments or institutional customers. So there's ServiceNow is figuring in very largely in both sides. So the Samsung group is exploring utilizing ServiceNow internally to help streamline consumer and enterprise customer service and a bunch of other logistics capabilities that bringing into the ServiceNow platform and converging would be advantageous. So that's in the works right now. And there's a lot of people working on that because you can imagine that any sort of project of that size would be pretty astronomical. And then on the external side, what we did was we looked for white spaces where we could build on the ServiceNow platform because we saw, ServiceNow's got 80% of the Fortune 500 at this point. They've got 8,000 enterprise customers and growing. And so they really are the platform that runs IT for the majority of the large enterprise customers and governments. So if you're going to build something, building it on that is a pretty good bet because not only do you have a huge audience to introduce the product to, you've also got a great platform where, the low code, no code nature of ServiceNow allows you to be very nimble. You can customize your product very quickly for a customer. You can take it in different directions based on what the market is asking for. It's very exciting in that perspective. Plus, any customer that's deployed ServiceNow really is drinking the Kool-Aid when it comes to workflow automation and convergence and integration. They've already done that on the desktop and the network infrastructure and the cloud side. So doing it on the mobile asset side would totally make sense. So that was where we started focusing with ServiceNow. And then we noticed that there was a big white space, as I mentioned before, from a mobile perspective. They didn't have mobile as an asset class. So we decided that we were going to investigate what could we build for ServiceNow that would help customers manage mobile devices better. And we came across all the workflows that we thought were necessary for a customer. And this was we took inspiration from a number of our current enterprise customers and then came together and built this platform. So it's called Zero Touch Mobility for ServiceNow. It's a scoped application, which means that it's an application that is built on top of ServiceNow and is downloaded from the ServiceNow App Store onto the customer's instance. So really, it's like a third-party module. It's very native. And that product really handles the entire life cycle of mobility, from ordering of a device through deployment and enrollment and different systems that are required to manage it, like EMMs, et cetera, out into the world where we're then monitoring it and helping remedy situations like lost and broken and stolen and other support requirements, to the end of the device's life where there's device reclamation and then upgrading to a new version. So we brought all that into ServiceNow, and now it's a completely automated landscape, as opposed to what was before: multiple swivel chairs and a lot of pain.
You are listening to the Aldis podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions: www.aldis.com.
Dave, you and I were speaking off air about not just the growth of ServiceNow over the last few years and some of the exciting announcements at the Knowledge events, but specifically around Samsung's investment and how it's exciting for the next few years for anyone who's got to work in ServiceNow. You sit at the sort of high table shaping strategy and implementation. So when you look at the project roadmap over the next 18 months to 2 years, what are you most excited about to work on with you and the team? And give us a look behind the scenes of the ServiceNow team that you're involved in.
Zero Touch Mobility is really kind of on the bleeding edge of technology as far as ServiceNow is concerned. There's no product like it on the market. There's really no competitor inside of the ServiceNow ecosystem. We're really innovating every day. And customers and partners are pushing us to areas that we didn't even think of before. So it's moving extremely quickly. And it's in an area of ServiceNow that there's very little legacy knowledge. So a lot of it's making it up as you go along and working with ServiceNow. Like, for example, we had to get them to change asset classes inside of their CMDB database structure in order for this thing to work. So we're working really strategically hip to hip with ServiceNow, inventing a new area for their platform. And that's really exciting. But then the market is going into crazy places as well. So not only are we bleeding edge as far as ServiceNow is concerned, we're having to keep up with customer demand for new emerging technology that's moving much faster than any sort of technology that has moved before. And that would be generative AI. So not only are we developing this very innovative platform inside of ServiceNow, we're also exploring bleeding edge technologies of integrating things like IBM Watson's AI into our cloud infrastructure so that we can start getting predictive and preventative in our approach to lifecycle management for devices, of seeing issues before they happen and being able to remediate them in real time based on integration with an AI and other systems that previously had been siloed. So I think that it's exciting every day. We really are blazing a trail, and anybody who's part of this team is learning alongside us, but it's invaluable, like industry making experience. So we're really excited about that. The team itself, we've got a team of ServiceNow coders. We've got project managers and product managers. There's managed services people behind that to basically make the product work, implementation specialists, and a whole team of sales and marketing and technical salespeople. We've gone from having a very small team to growing at a major rate. And I don't see that slowing down based on the amount of opportunities that are coming into the pipeline every day and the amount of customer closed business engagements we've got going right now.
Yeah, Dave, sounds incredibly exciting. Given the fact that, look, the size of Samsung SDS as an org, one of the largest IT organizations standalone, the fact that you're now not only supporting Samsung internally, but you're taking your services out to external customers, staying on the bleeding edge, creating your own products. It sounds like a fun place to work. When you look at the next 1 to 2 years, given the investment you're making in ServiceNow and how that's creating standalone products, you're as part of the leadership team, you're involved in shaping strategy, helping figure out resources. A big part of that is bringing in the personnel. You've already talked about the amazing team that you have, but I'm sure there's going to be a need to continue to add, as you've referenced. When you're speaking to people about Samsung SDS or your particular environment, the Enterprise Business Solutions Group and the ServiceNow team, when you're speaking to candidates who are looking for options and opportunities, what is it that you tell them about your team, your group at Samsung that gets them interested enough to join you guys over some of the other great companies hiring?
Usually I lead with the fact that, I'm a startup guy. I've had a number of startups and I've really enjoyed that sort of environment. But the one thing that comes with that is that no one knows who you are. So if you're trying to get the attention of a Google or a Microsoft or, some large software provider where you're needing to do integrations or just even understanding what their API documents are or underlying capabilities, it's pretty hard to get a response. But when you got the Samsung.com email address, things happen pretty quickly. You're with a company that's one of the most valuable brands in the world. There's a lot of power behind that. But on top of that, there's a lot of capability. There are more doctors on my team than around my neighborhood. There's a lot of people that know a lot about a lot of different things. And, ServiceNow is just one part of what we're doing. We work with governments and militaries. We work with healthcare providers. And all these things are starting to converge, like vertical applications like remote patient monitoring or what we're doing with the military for a connected soldier, that into ServiceNow from a lifecycle perspective. And then we're also looking at how do we take zero touch mobility and wrap vertical applications around it so that we've got complete solutions that we can go to specific customers and say, Mr. Healthcare provider, here's your remote patient monitoring solution in a box. Or Mr. Financial institution, here's your compliance solution in a box. And all of that centering around ServiceNow as the kind of the central control tower or hub, with ZTM, our software being like the main driver there. Yeah, I was talking about generative AI before. Being able to sit in a room with IBM senior executives and have that come together in a week, where you've gone from an idea to we're sitting down and exploring how we do this integration and scheduling the POC. Things don't happen that quickly other places, but when you've got a juggernaut like Samsung behind you, it can. So it leads to really exciting things. And I think that's what makes this place different. Now, the people are great. The infrastructure is great. It's not without its challenges. All big companies have their own issues, but for the most part, everybody is warm and inviting. It's a team environment, and you've got an international scale to what you're doing. Because whatever you do here, more than likely is going to find a home as well in Europe and Asia and Africa and Australasia. So there's a lot of exciting things happening, and there's a lot of room for expansion.
What's most exciting, I think, is the fact that you guys are developing your zero touch mobility platform, but it's going to be available to your customers and partners and they can benefit rather than just internal Samsung, which is really exciting. Dave, thanks so much for coming on today and talking to us. It was a pleasure to learn about your journey. I think it's quite insightful and very informative as to how you got to where you are today. And given the role that you hold within Samsung SDS on the very bleeding edge of automation and utilizing ServiceNow heavily, I think it's a great look behind the scenes as to what's going on at Samsung and gives us some insight into what we can expect to see in the coming months and years. Finally, most importantly, for people in the ServiceNow community, Samsung sounds like an incredible place to be if you want to hone and develop your skills. So we really appreciate your time. We wish you, the team, and everyone at Samsung SDS the best of luck in months and years to come. And we look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Thanks, JP. I really appreciate it. And just so anybody knows, If you want to join a ServiceNow startup that's also part of a multi-billion-dollar organization, this is the place to be.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the All This podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.allthis.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.